The sun hammered down on figures in heavy, rubberized suits. They moved slowly across the cracked earth of Vozrozhdeniya Island, digging in silence, their task to bury a secret that could kill millions. Inside the steel drums was a fine brown powder, weaponized anthrax, the most potent biological agent the Soviet Union ever created. Now, as the empire crumbled, it had to disappear. The men shoveled sand over the drums, erasing a nightmare. No markers, no warnings, just sand and sky. The job was done. The secret was buried. Vozrozhdeniya Island, isolated in the shrinking Aral Sea, was chosen for its remoteness. The wind never stopped, carrying sand and secrets. It was the perfect place to hide a man-made plague. The men left, but the anthrax remained, sleeping beneath the surface. A silent, patient threat. The story was just beginning. Power, fear, and secrecy had created a legacy that would haunt the world. The island's silence was deceptive. Beneath the sand, the monster waited. The world would forget, but the danger would not. Vozrozhdeniya was now a graveyard for a weapon. The men who buried it hoped it would never wake. But history has a way of unearthing what we try to hide. The secret was not gone, only hidden. The island's story was far from over, and so was the threat. Vozrozhdeniya means renaissance, a cruel joke for a place of death. Once home to fishermen, it became a laboratory for the end of the world. In the 1940s, Soviet leaders needed a secret, isolated site. Their finger landed on this island, far from any city. The fishermen were forced out. The island became a restricted military zone. In reality, it was the heart of the Soviet bioweapons program. Vozrozhdeniya became the center of a web of fear. On this island, they experimented with new ways to end life. The island's rebirth was twisted into something monstrous. Here, science served secrecy and fear. The world would one day learn what was created here. The island's history was written in silence and sand. The world would pay the price for this rebirth. The story was only beginning.
On the island's northern tip, a city appeared, Aralsk 7. It was a secret city, absent from maps, its existence a state secret. From the outside, it looked like any Soviet town, apartments, a school, a playground. But everyone here was part of the bioweapons program. Scientists, soldiers, and families lived double lives. By day, they handled anthrax, smallpox, and plague in secure labs. They weaponized life itself, creating monsters in petri dishes. By night, they became ordinary citizens. Dinners, homework, television. Children played, unaware of the deadly experiments nearby. The secret was everywhere, but never spoken. The Soviet system created parallel realities, a happy town and a hidden lab. Residents were loyal servants and keepers of a terrible secret. They knew the work was dangerous and forbidden by treaties, but they believed it was necessary. A silent war demanded silent soldiers. Aralsk 7 was their fortress, built on lies. The city's normalcy was an illusion. The real story was in the labs, not the playground. The people lived with the weight of what they created. Their lives were shaped by secrecy and fear. The city was a bubble, isolated from the world. But secrets have a way of leaking out. Aralsk 7's story would not stay hidden forever. The fortress would one day become a ghost town.
At the heart of Aralsk 7 stood the scientific, experimental, and production base. This was no ordinary factory. It produced anthrax on an industrial scale. Giant fermenters grew Bacillus anthracus, which was milled into a superfine, lethal powder. The process was a marvel of dark engineering. Scientists perfected a strain resistant to antibiotics and vaccines. It was the perfect weapon stable, easy to produce, devastatingly effective. Clouds of anthrax were released over the island's testing range. Animals were exposed, data collected, methods refined. The weapon grew deadlier with each test. At its peak, the facility could produce hundreds of tons of anthrax slurry per year. This was mass production, not just research. The plan. In war, bombers would release the powder over enemy cities. People would breathe it in, dying days later from internal bleeding and organ failure. This weapon did not distinguish between soldier and civilian. The scientists knew what they were making, but the logic of the Cold War made it seem rational. The Americans are doing it, so must we. National survival justified everything. Day after day, the factory churned out its deadly product. The anthrax piled up, waiting for a war that never came. The scale was staggering, the threat unimaginable. The world was unaware of the danger stockpiled here. The factory's legacy would outlast the regime. The anthrax remained even as the empire faded. The monster was buried, but not destroyed. For decades, Vozrojdeniya's secret held, but in 1971, a research vessel entered a strange haze. The crew thought it was dust. They were wrong. Soon people fell ill. High fevers, coughing, difficulty breathing. 3 died. The cause was listed as pneumonia, but doctors suspected smallpox. Authorities quarantined the area and launched a massive vaccination campaign. The answer: weaponized smallpox had escaped, drifting on the wind. The wall of secrecy had a crack. The world started to pay attention. The crack in the wall would only widen. The consequences were just beginning. The monster was awake. As the Soviet Union weakened, the world asked more questions. Defectors spoke of Vozrojdeniya and its bioweapons. Moscow's response: categorical denial. Lies. Western propaganda, they insisted. The cover-up was total. Never admit, always deny. The Soviet government controlled information with iron discipline. Citizens were told the USSR was peaceful, committed to disarmament. The truth about bioweapons was unthinkable. The story of Vozrojdeniya would shatter that illusion. So it was erased, even as the program was dismantled. In 1992, Yeltsin admitted the program existed, but details remained vague. The full extent of Vozrojdeniya's work stayed hidden. Officials were silent, documents classified. Decades of denial buried the truth deep. The ghost of the program lingered. The world was left with rumors and fragments. The denial was so effective, the truth became a mystery. Even after the empire's fall, the secrets endured. The story was never fully told. Vozrojdeniya's legacy was a shadow over history. The great denial left the world guessing. While secrets were hidden, another disaster unfolded. The Aral Sea, once vast, was dying. Rivers diverted for cotton fields. The sea shrank, the shoreline receded, and the climate changed. Dust storms swept salt and pesticides across the land. As the sea vanished, Vozrojdeniya grew. The island became a peninsula, connected to the mainland. The natural barrier was gone. The monster was no longer contained. Soviet ambition to control nature and create weapons had failed. Now both failures were linked. The land bridge led straight to the anthrax burial pits. The nightmare was accessible to anyone. The secret was exposed by the receding sea. The island's isolation was over. The danger was now within reach. The past could no longer be hidden by water. Vozrojdeniya's threat was unleashed by environmental disaster. The world faced the consequences of 2 catastrophes. The monster was no longer trapped. In 1992, Aralsk 7 was abandoned overnight. The city became a ghost town, a monument to a secret no longer worth keeping. Today, apartment blocks stand silent, windows broken, dust thick on forgotten belongings. The laboratories are stripped, but warning signs remain. The city is a time capsule from the last days of the Soviet Empire. Walking through the ruins, you feel the weight of the secret, but the real ghosts are invisible. Anthrax spores still contaminate the soil. The legacy is not just empty buildings, but poison in the ground. The burial pits remain a threat. The soil is still hot with bacteria. The ghosts of Aralsk 7 are microscopic and patient. You can abandon a place, but not erase what was done there. The past lingers, buried in the sand. The city's silence is haunted by what it once concealed. The danger is not gone, only hidden. The story of Aralsk 7 is a warning. Secrets leave scars that do not fade. The island's poison endures. The ghosts remain. The new land bridge alarmed Uzbekistan and the United States. Tons of anthrax in shallow graves, now accessible, was a nightmare. In 2002, American experts arrived to help neutralize the threat. Using old Soviet maps and memories, they searched for the burial pits. For 6 months, they worked in protective suits, excavating 11 pits. They found steel drums filled with anthrax and bleach. The bleach hadn't worked. The spores were still deadly. The team treated the pits with powerful disinfectant, mixing it into the soil. The operation was declared a success. The Pentagon announced the threat was eliminated. It was a rare moment of post-Cold War cooperation. But questions remained. Did they find all the pits? Soviet records were unreliable. What about contamination from decades of testing? The intervention was crucial, but not the end. The island still held secrets. The danger was reduced, not erased. The story was not over. Today, Vozrozhdeniya Island is a symbol of Cold War hubris and secrecy. It's a place where the rules didn't apply, and the legacy is uncertainty. We know about the anthrax burial and the American cleanup, but the full archive of the Soviet bioweapons program remains closed. The extent of contamination is still unclear. Rumors persist of other buried materials and test sites. The island is defined by what we don't know. The secret lives on. Across the former USSR, forgotten chemical dumps and contaminated sites remain. These are the loose ends of a history never fully acknowledged. They pose ongoing threats, problems that can't be solved until the secrets are told. Vozrozhdeniya sits silent, the wind blowing sand through empty buildings. Rusted ships lie on the dry seabed. Deep in the soil, the memory of anthrax remains. It's a warning. You cannot simply bury a secret. Secrets survive, haunting the present. They wait for a future not yet decided. The story is not over. It never is. The island's silence is a reminder. Some legacies cannot be erased.